Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a special installment of the U.S. Capitol Historical Society's webinar series. Those of you who may have joined us in the past will know that my name is Samuel Holliday, and I have the tremendous privilege and honor of serving as the Executive Vice President of the U.S. Capitol Historical Society. And we're thrilled that so many of you are taking time out of your busy days to spend a little bit of it with us as we talk about our exciting plans for the year ahead. It's also my great pleasure to introduce the newly elected President and CEO of the U.S. Capitol Historical Society, Roswell Encina. Roswell comes to us after a distinguished career in communications as a broadcast journalist and as a communications director for both the Enoch Pratt Free Library in Baltimore and nearly a decade at the Library of Congress right here in Washington, one of our favorite partner organizations on Capitol Hill. Before we get into Roswell's update, his presentation on what we look to do in the next year, it's been a minute since we did some Zoom webinars with you, so I'd like to go over a little bit of the technical housekeeping that always makes these formats work for our conversations nationwide and in some cases worldwide. As you listen to Roswell's presentation, if you have any technical difficulties, you can put those matters into the chat of the webinar and I can troubleshoot them in real time. But as you're listening to our plans, as you're listening to a little bit about who we are, what we do, if you have questions for Roswell, you can put those into the Q&A so that I can pull them together and present them to him at the end of his presentation. So again, any troubleshooting can go to the chat section. Any substantive questions can go to Q&A so we can pull them together for that part of the presentation. So with those technological housekeeping matters in place, again, it's my pleasure to pass the microphone to Roswell to start talking about USCHS Under the Dome as we commemorate the National Semi-Quincentennial. Roswell?
Thank you, Sam, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I know many of you are probably battling with the cold or digging out of the snow and the ice, so we appreciate you joining us during this lunch hour. We are really grateful to see so many familiar names and new ones on this virtual town hall. Whether you're a longtime member, a donor, a sponsor, a Hill staffer, an educator, or someone who simply cares deeply about the U.S. Capitol and what it represents, I'm glad you're here. As Sam mentioned, I'm Roswell Encina. I'm honored to join you as the new president and CEO of the U.S. Capitol Historical Society. I want to begin by saying how appreciative I am of those who led this organization before me. Each of my predecessors helped build a strong foundation rooted in scholarship, integrity, and a deep respect for the Capitol and for our democracy. I'm standing on very solid ground because of their work, and I don't take that lightly. Let me introduce you to my brilliant and talented colleagues here at the Capitol Historical Society. You met Sam Holliday earlier. He's our Executive Vice President. Eric Denyer and Dr. Felicia Bell, part of Capitol Civics. Jason Taylor, part of Merchandise and Marketing. And Charisse Clark, our Development Director. And I'm going to start sharing my screen here so you don't have to stare at us the entire time. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm hoping all of you are seeing this. And our goal here at the Society is both simple and ambitious. We want to broaden the reach of the U.S. Capitol Historical Society. We want more people to feel a sense of connection to the Capitol, to see themselves in it, to understand its history, and to recognize the many people who make it function every single day. Uh-oh, I can't. 1 second. There.
Click once and then it'll
I do
go.
want to read a quote from our founder, Congressman Fred Schwengel, when the society started in 1962. He believed that the society belonged to all the people and should be as open and as possible to the widest participation. And with that, we want to show you this fun little video.
Since 1962, the U.S. Capitol Historical Society has worked to foster and increase and inform patriotism. Each year, the Capitol Historical Society connects the public, educators, students to the history of the U.S. Capitol and the democratic ideas it represents. We bring history to life through public programs with leading historians, Capitol history tours, teacher workshops across the country, and civics programs for Title I students here in Washington, D.C. In the year ahead, we hope to expand our public programs, reach more classrooms nationwide, and continue our commitment to nonpartisan, fact-based civic education, ensuring that history is accessible, relevant, and alive for the next generation. I invite you to invest in this mission, so together we can educate, inspire, and ensure the promise of our democracy endures.
All right. Now, when we think about the Capitol, we often think about members of Congress. And of course, their story matters, but the full story is much bigger. It includes Republicans and Democrats. It includes the people who argue, compromise, legislate, and govern. It also includes the preservationists, the historians, the docents, the electricians and carpenters, the gardeners, the custodial staff, and the U.S. Capitol police officers who protect the building and everyone in it. Our job is to tell that full story honestly, responsibly, and nonpartisanly. That leads directly to how we see the role of the society today. At our core, we want to ensure that the U.S. Capitol Historical Society is positioned as the authoritative, nonpartisan storyteller of the Capitol and its history. We want to advocate for history and civics at a time when both feel increasingly fragile. And we want to broaden our reach, especially to younger audiences and to communities that may not always feel included in civic spaces, so people better understand why history and civics matter and how they shape our daily lives. For those who may not know our origin story, let me share a very brief history of the society. The U.S. Capitol Historical Society was founded in 1962 with a clear and forward-looking mission to preserve and share the history of the Capitol, the Congress, and the people who work there. In 1978, the Society was formally chartered by Congress as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, charged in part with what Congressman Fred Schwenkel, our founder, so eloquently described as the responsibility to foster and increase and inform patriotism. That phrase still resonates today. He also adds that he believes that the society could become a history teacher to the nation. Over more than 6 decades, the Society has lived that mission in many ways, through expert-led Capitol tours, in-person and virtual public programs, scholarly publications, digital civics resources for teachers, and one of our most meaningful efforts, hands-on civics education for students who might not otherwise have access to the Capitol. All of that work now lives under what we call Capitol Civics, which we truly believe is the heart of the Society. A cornerstone of Capitol Civics is our We the People Constitution program, which has been engaging students since 2005 through immersive experiences both in classrooms and inside the Capitol itself. We help students understand not just what the Constitution says, but why it matters and why it means to be an active citizen. Our We the People Constitution tours serve 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students attending Title I schools here in Washington, D.C. This wonderful educational experience allows the opportunity for traditionally underserved and under-resourced students to walk into the Capitol, many for the first time, and realize this place belongs to them too. That moment, watching a student connect the words in a textbook to the real living class institution around them is one of the most powerful things we do. We hope to someday expand this to the entire DMV area here in Washington and hopefully nationwide. And to extend that reach even further, we built the We the People Constitution Hub, a free online resource for teachers and students across the country. It brings the Constitution's living history into classrooms through lesson plans, primary sources, and interactive tools. Whether a teacher is introducing the foundations of government or encouraging deeper civic engagement, this hub is designed to meet students where they are. Capitol Civics also includes our teacher workshops, which provide professional development opportunities for educators from around the nation. We're very proud of this. These workshops deepen teachers' knowledge of American history and civics while giving them free, high-quality classroom resources they can use immediately. In recent years, we posted teacher workshops in Springfield, Illinois, Gainesville, Florida, and Fremont, Ohio. Our next workshop will take place this fall, and we're very excited to announce the host state very soon. Supporting teachers is one of the most direct ways we can strengthen civic understanding for generations to come. Alongside education, we also are focused on expanding our reach through public programming, both in person and virtually. That's actually one of the reasons we're hosting this town hall today. We want to be more connected to you, our members, donors, sponsors, stakeholders, members of Congress and their staff, and the broader public. Engagement shouldn't be one directional. We want this to feel like a community. And I would be remiss if I didn't spotlight our Capitol tours, which remain one of the Society's most visible and impactful offerings. Led by expert guides, these tours provide context, depth, and storytelling that go far beyond what most visitors experience. They are often the first and sometimes the most lasting connection people have to the Capitol's history. We're also honored to partner each summer with the White House Historical Association and the Supreme Court Historical Society to deliver the Three Branches Institute, an in-person 4-day teacher workshop here in Washington, D.C. The 2026 edition is slated to take place July 27th to 30th. This professional development opportunity is open to social study teachers grades 5 to 12 throughout the nation. The application process is currently open and will remain open until March 1st. We can follow up with a link to the application if you know any teachers who are interested. Now, as we look forward to 2026 and the nation's semi-quincentennial, we see enormous opportunity. We are planning an expanded author series building on the success of our past programs. We intend to host more conversations with authors and thought leaders for members, donors, prospects, and the public. Invited authors include Congressman Jim Clyburn, CBS News' Norah O'Donnell, and historian Walter Isaacson. These events are meant to elevate the Society's profile, broaden our audience, and offer real value to membership. Future invitations will include to reflect a wide range of perspectives and experiences that deepen public understanding of our history and civic life. We're also building a partnership with C-SPAN around its very successful America's Book Club series. This partnership offers tremendous visibility and an opportunity to connect history, literacy, and civic engagement on a national stage. We're also planning an America250 symposium, bringing together scholars and historians to explore the nation's founding, democratic evolution, and civic ideas. And we are tentatively planning the 2026 Freedom Award for this fall. With a high-profile honoree, this event will help elevate the Society's national profile while supporting fundraising and donor cultivation. We are thinking of innovative ways to engage the public, and we welcome your suggestions and ideas. None of this, and I mean none of it, is possible without your support. Every membership, every donation, every sponsorship, every time someone chooses to support the Society, whether through a major gift or by purchasing our annual Christmas ornament or Society merchandise, you're helping turn this mission into something real and lasting. Your generosity shows up in very tangible ways. It's what allows a student to walk into the Capitol for the first time and understand that democracy belongs to them. It's what gives teachers the tools and confidence to bring civics alive in their classrooms. It's what helps us preserve the history of the Capitol with care, accuracy, and integrity, and to tell its story honestly, thoughtfully, and without partisanship. Simply put, your support makes the work possible, and for that, I am deeply, very grateful. And for more information on supporting the Society through buying our merchandise or through your generosity, please visit our website at capitolhistory.org. So we will close with this. Let me just get back on camera for you so you see me.
Sure. Well, thank you, Roswell.
All right, let me add one more thing, Sam. At a moment when democracy feels tested, the work of history and civics is not optional. It's essential. The U.S. Capitol is not just a building. It's a symbol of who we are, who we have been, and who we still aspire to be. The U.S. Capitol Historical Society exists to protect that story, to share it honestly, and to make sure it belongs to everyone. Thank you for believing this mission. Thank you for being part of this community, and thank you for walking forward with us as we build the next chapter on the Society together. We are deeply grateful, and we look forward to what's ahead. Thank you, and as Sam mentioned, we welcome your questions. And of course, if you missed today's town hall, or if you want to pass this on to your friends who weren't able to attend, we'll be posting this on our YouTube channel in the next 24 hours. Sam, let's hear these questions.
Absolutely. And sorry to have interrupted there. Thank you
That's okay.
for this conversation. Those are some inspiring words to close with. I think while we give folks a chance to type in questions they may have, Roswell, we're excited you're the fifth president and CEO of the Capitol Historical Society, and you come to us with an exciting background. Maybe you could share with folks what drew you to this role. What drew you to this organization as you were, looking at the next steps in your career and your life?
Thank you, Sam. As Sam mentioned, I was at the Library of Congress for nearly 10 years. Part of my role there, I was Chief Communications Officer, was working with our folks, our teachers, and everybody who deals with primary sources. And I saw the value of civics and social studies, and also the lack of, grade school nowadays is not the grade school we all attended when we were in middle school and high school. There is a lack of civics and a lack of history, and we're hoping to fill that void. And that's really what lured me to join the Capitol Historical Society. I believe in its mission and what it could do to elevate civics and social studies and make it a very lasting impact. As I mentioned, we do these We the People tours. The last one, I follow them around. The last one I joined was coincidentally on January 6th. So we had eighth graders from the IDB Wells School here in Washington, D.C. I was quite impressed with them. You know how it does. When you were younger, when you went on a school field trip, most of the time you're half paying attention and you just want to get out of the classroom. These kids were really attentive and really kind of invested in what the docent of the Capitol Visitor Center was sharing with them. Not only were they listening, they were asking questions. And it was very inspirational. Honestly, you see that there is an appetite among kids to really learn more and really get engaged with what's happening here in the Capitol. And honestly, because it was January 6th, just the images from 5 years ago and seeing these kids walking around the Capitol 5 years later was very powerful.
Absolutely, a really poignant demonstration of the value of civic engagement, and I always find those tours such a humbling reminder of why we get up every day and go to work here. We've got a question. We're starting to get some questions, and again, please feel free to put them into the Q&A section. But I know we've got one that came through by alternative means. Just you mentioned it a little bit towards the end of your presentation, Roswell, but if you could share with some folks who might be new to our organization and learning about us for the first time, the question of how we are funded and whether we receive any federal funding. So if you can talk a little bit about how we support ourselves to do all that important work, like those We the People tours.
So we are a nonprofit organization, so we are not funded by the federal government, but we work closely with members of Congress and their staff. We try to make these programs, these webinars, and everything that we do, and the tours, of course. We want to connect them, of course, with their members of Congress, but we don't receive any funding. All of this is made possible because of the generosity for more than 60 years of supporters and donors and people who buy our merchandise. We don't take it lightly how your dollar allows us to do what we do, whether it's buying an ornament or making a generous donation. There is a lot of very civic-minded folks out there that we really appreciate everything that they do for us. Again, these We the People tours, the teacher workshops, and everything else that we do, we can't do it without your support.
Well put, and it takes a village, and it takes a lot of various folks doing a lot of various things to help sustain us in this work. Another interesting question, that has to do with delivery of educational resources and student experiences in particular. Someone asks if virtual tour experiences have reached a point where it makes in-person tourism less necessary, which I know a lot of our friends on the call here are in the tour guiding sort of space. I know we partner closely with our friends in the visitor center, and so it's a big weighty question. But do you think we've reached a point where it's less needed to bring people in person? Or do you think there's still a real special quality to walking into a space? I mean,
I think both are very important. We have the luxury to live here in Washington, D.C., and allow us to go into the Capitol or the Rayburn Building or the Longworth Building or the Library of Congress, the Supreme Court, or the National Archives or the Smithsonian. It is a treasure trove when you live here in Washington, but we completely get it. Not everybody has this luxury to see these wonderful institutions on a daily basis. So, we believe that the in-person experience is still valuable. I mean, each day when you see those eighth graders or, families visiting in the springtime or in the summer here in Washington, especially the Capitol, they still marvel. And, when they're all looking up at the dome, it is quite sobering. And you're reminded why the Capitol is very important. It really connects all of us. It's a big equalizer. But we should also learn that, of course, not everybody could visit Washington. And we want them clearly to visit our physical front door here at the U.S. Capitol. But we understand that we need to invite them to our digital front door as well, because not everybody can visit here. We want to make sure that we connect the Capitol, whether you live here in Washington or live in Oklahoma City, or you live in Charleston, South Carolina, or Bangor, Maine, that the U.S. Capitol is for you. So, we will try to keep ourselves up to date on when it comes to our websites and doing digital tours and virtual tours, so everybody could still enjoy the Capitol and learn more about it, whether it's online or in person.
well put, absolutely. Speaking of the digital front door and the website, so much of our public history programming, certainly, in the last, coming up on 6 years now that we've been operating in a hybrid format, has been recorded. Could you maybe share with folks some of the ways they can find their way to our past programming, such as our webs, ways they can get to see some of the past conversations we've had?
Absolutely. So we have some oral histories on our website that we've been recording for several decades now. Of course, the Society's YouTube channel has past webinars, past lectures, past author events, and we believe many of these are evergreen. History is history. So we're hoping that whether you're watching it 5 years ago or watching it now, the stories that we've gathered are still very important and still very vital. They're a collection of diverse stories, whether it's members of Asian American members of Congress, to folks who have been previous docents, to historians. They all are part of this community of sharing the Capitol story. So, we encourage you to visit or follow us on our social media. And of course, like our videos on YouTube. We hope to generate more videos in the coming months and coming years. And what's important to us is not only making the Capitol accessible, but I like saying making it more relatable. As I mentioned earlier, we want people to see themselves in the U.S. Capitol. So when they walk into Statuary Hall, they'll see not only their state statue, but maybe see themselves in some of these statues. Maybe a visiting eighth grader from Montgomery, Alabama sees the statue of Rosa Parks in the Capitol building. It means a lot. And I feel like that is very valuable to us, that people connect themselves, not only connect to history, but see themselves in the U.S. Capitol.
Again, beautifully put. It's almost like you've worked in communications. I appreciate you sharing that, and echoing the ways that folks can keep up with our work and go back and see the archive we've assembled of programming with the ways that folks can see the scholars we've talked to, the practitioners we've interviewed, and engage in the work. So, Roswell, another question that has to do with the timing here. We called this, USCHS and America250. We're coming into the national semi-quincentennial year. We're here. It's 2026. Could you talk a little bit about your excitement for the year ahead and how the national focus on this big anniversary can relate to our work here at the Capitol Historical Society?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's very exciting. Many institutions around the nation have been preparing for this for almost 10 years, actually, leading up to this 4th of July. And we're the same. We want to focus on, of course, the creation of the nation, the documents that led to this. But what we like to also focus is moving forward and what came out of this wonderful democratic experiment that we call America. Between members of Congress, the the amazing number of landmark legislation that's been passed for the past 250 years not only made the nation better, made it more freer, and it made it more equal to all citizens of this nation. So we really want to focus on the amazing work of landmark legislation that has allowed us to become, a better nation, and really focus on the value of it, how it contributed to daily lives here. And I feel like it allows us to celebrate the nation and the accomplishments that's happened the past 250 years. So many of our programming, whether it's author conversations or historian lectures, really focus not only what formed the nation, but what came out of it.
Excellent. And it's an exciting time for sure. So we'll get to spend some time in that space talking, taking the moment to explore all that it's meant to be and become the United States of America, that continual effort towards a more perfect union. So much of what we do is in and around the Capitol building. It's the Temple of Democracy. Our beloved Steve Livengood likes to refer to it as the most famous building in the world. And I know you've worked up here on Capitol Hill for more than a decade at this point. Do you have a favorite spot in the Capitol building, or we can expand it to the Capitol campus? Again, I know folks are at least in part in here because they're excited to get to know you as our new fearless leader. So do you have a favorite spot? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about why that draws you to its appreciation?
My favorite spot really is in Statuary Hall. You know how they have little markings on the floor where um, previous members of Congress have kind of had their desks. One of them, of course, is Abraham Lincoln's. Lincoln represents so much in us, and what he's done for the country. The stuff and the turmoil he had to deal with during the Civil War, and you just imagine everything that they were dealing with at that time. It's a reflection of what's come out of the country since then. And there's something so moving that you were pretty much standing on the same kind of marble as where Abraham Lincoln stood, and all these wonderful, members of Congress who've gone through these halls. But it just showcases the amount of work and the history of the people who've worked there. Again, beyond members of Congress and their staff, from the folks from the Architect of the Capitol's office to the Capitol Police, as I mentioned, to the preservationists, to the docents, to the average American who walks through those halls every day. I think the how it kind of, its power kind of overwhelms and blankets you every single time. And I think people should always remember that and why the Capitol is very important, how it symbolizes our democracy. And I think, where Lincoln stood for me will always be kind of very valuable.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a reason he stands in such high regard, and I know he was a perpetual favorite of our founder Fred Schwengel, and I know you and I were discussing many of the great quotes and the wisdom Fred left to the society. And one of his remarks that you and I were discussing the other day is his hope that visitors to the Capitol would catch something of the fire that burned in the hearts of those who walked and talked in these halls. And so, Lincoln being perhaps chief among them in Fred's venerable estimation. So we've got another question here from a longtime friend, and I can say a personal mentor, who is someone who's an astute observer of history, someone who cares deeply for the Congress and its history, and the honest telling of history. And just if you could speak a little bit about the independence of the Capitol Historical Society and our continuing commitment to telling the full breadth of American history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as good stewards of these stories that we are. If you could just speak a little bit to your vision for that continuing thread of our work here, we'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Historian Durrance Kearns Goodwin says, and I may be butchering this verbatim wise. She says, there's hope in history. And I think that's why it's very important for us to always look back. It allows us to celebrate, commemorate, and of course, learn from it. And I'm hoping, whether if we're feeling like a divided nation right now and everything's very polarizing, those are the things to remind us of, um, that the history that this nation has gone through should give us strength and hope. And I think the U.S. Capitol really shows that between, as I mentioned, all the people that work and go through this building every day allows us to look backwards and really think of how to move forward from it. And I think whether, as you mentioned, Sam, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, we have to acknowledge and embrace it and to showcase how we can move forward for generations to come. I always feel like we are just short-term caretakers of the Capitol building and its history, and it's our responsibility to make sure this carries on forward.
Absolutely, and we really appreciate your setting that vision and that stewardship mentality is really something laudable and something we're proud to work towards. So we are happy to continue taking any questions you may have, but as we're starting to see a little bit of a lull from audience questions, Roswell, if you want to share any parting thoughts, about I know we've spent a lot of time talking about the grand vision, about how we're looking to program in this big anniversary year and continue the fine work of this more than 60-year-old organization. Just anything that you want to share that really excites you, that really inspires you as we put our shoulder back to the wheel here with the work at hand.
Absolutely. I've been on the job for almost 3 months here, and I want to thank, Sam, and the wonderful colleagues here that I have here at the Capitol Historical Society, but also our board, our donors, our members, and all our supporters. You've been very wonderful and gracious in embracing me and letting me be part of this community now. I can't thank everybody enough, and I just want to kind of tell everyone, we are very excited of what we have in store in the coming months and the coming years, and really expanding our reach and to elevate our name. As I mentioned earlier, we want to really expand some of these programs that we already do and maybe either make it more on a national level or do more of it and maybe think outside the box a little bit and how we could really connect with you, again, wherever you are in the country. So again, thank you. And we appreciate your support and generosity, and always, visit our website, capitolhistory.org, for any updates. You may see some changes on the website very soon as well, as we celebrate America 250. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you so much. We will send a recording of this program to everyone who's registered. We'll post it to our YouTube channel and our website. And we wish you all the best as we proceed in fostering and increasing an informed patriotism.
Thank you for joining us.
Be well. Bye-bye.